Travis Hunter to Colorado might have been the biggest story of the offseason. We're going to break down how it happened, what happened, and everything along the way from his journey from a Florida State commit to Jackson State to Colorado.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I'm your host, Kevin Borba, and joining me, as always, is John Garcia Jr., recruiting insider, recruiting expert, recruiting savant, John Garcia Jr. We're here to talk to you about all things Colorado football. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. This episode is going to be about Travis Hunter, his journey to Colorado, how he got there, everything in between. But before we start, John, I do need to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, LinkedIn. With LinkedIn Jobs, you can hire qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have the skills, values, and experiences to help you achieve your 2023 goals. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. Okay, John, let's dive in to the nitty gritty. We know what it is. Travis Hunter is a buff. It wasn't the easiest process for Travis Hunter to become a buff. Give us a little breakdown, because if you don't know this, John's out of Miami, which is Travis Hunter's neck of the woods. So give us the breakdown of what happened there and how he ended up in.
Yeah, Travis Hunter, South Florida native, one of the most electric high school recruits we've ever seen. The only guy we ranked number one in the country that wasn't a QB at Sports Illustrated over several years. Sandwiched in between, it was Bryce Young the first year, Caleb Williams the second year, and then Travis Hunter. So obviously a lofty praise for a recruit that's not a quarterback. Like you said, roots down here in South Florida, but played his college or his high school ball in the Atlanta area, and really kind of almost single-handedly revamped that Collins Hill program, got him to 2 state title games. They won it his senior season. He'd have been the number one player if he was just a receiver or just a corner. So you put them together, which is what he still is demonstrating at the collegiate level, and he was kind of a runaway number one overall recruit. But yeah, a huge player that everybody recognized early. Lengthy, speedy, ball skills, some of the best ball tracking I've ever seen in more than 12 years of doing this. Everything looks easy with Travis Hunter. Getting bigger, getting more physical, getting more polished at corner, but just an electric two-way recruit it was so head turning. He was so dominant that folks really made the campaign for him to be a receiver purely. And then it became a positional kind of back and forth, but the discussion was really never about his ranking or his upside. It was always going to be number one or close, which I think is a very strong indicator of what everybody kind of unanimously felt about Hunter. And then, of course, makes an early commitment to Florida State. Very solid, very publicly solid to the Seminoles for well over a year. But a year and change into it, he took a few visits, and it got a lot of folks very curious. Naturally, he took back-to-back visits to Georgia, which was the in-state school for him at the time, right on the precipice of this, I guess, dynasty that Kirby Smart and company have going on in Athens. He took back-to-back trips up there, and all of the flip alerts, alarms, buzz, all of that initially was for UGA and the Bulldogs. There was this sense in Athens that one way or another, at some point, which we'll get to later, whether it's a transfer portal or a traditional signing, Hunter was going to play for UGA. But obviously, it wasn't that visit that folks should have been as concerned about. It was the October trip he took to Jackson State. He checked out a game, sat down with Deion Sanders, and really from then, behind the scenes, there was always this curiosity. And as we got closer to signing day, we were all curious, maybe not expecting the flip when the day began, but as the day progressed, we started, hey, when's the ceremony? Where's he at? What's going on? Initially, there was no ceremony planned. Initially, it was always going to be, hey, he's going to sign 7 a.m. and be done with it, which made you think, oh, he's going to stick with Florida State through all of this. What a great win. And then as time went on, that letter of intent just did not come in to Tallahassee. And every minute, seemingly, it went by there was more and more buzz for Jackson State. There was still some Georgia buzz there, but really it became apparent that day, if he's going to make this move, it would be to play for Deion. And surely by now, surely everybody in this audience, but everybody in the football world saw his flip, dramatic, theatrical, extravagant, all of those things as he threw that Florida State hat and then revealed the Jackson State, what was it, like a blazer?
Right, yeah.
And then it was just kind of pandemonium. My editors at SI were going crazy. I was going crazy. It was the fastest story I've probably ever typed up. And to this day, it's a top 3 or 4 story that I've ever written from a traffic perspective. So again, how big are you as a number 1 recruit when you're not a quarterback? Still pretty darn big if you're Travis Hunter. So he's one of these guys, Kevin, that just had the buzz as an underclassman and lived up to it every single time, even off the field, from a theatrical and kind of entertainment perspective, which over time now you're like, man, of course he was going to go with Deion, right? I mean, this is a perfect fit. I know obviously his kids are all in Boulder and Shador's going to be the QB1 and all of that, but really it's Travis Hunter that's carried his own weight at every step of this thing. So even that initial flip to Deion was really the first signal of, holy crap, this is to the rest of college football at every level. Deion Sanders is not messing around from a talent acquisition perspective. This is going to be a very big deal for a long time. And really it became a matter of who else was going to go and when was Deion going to make that jump. Obviously we've gotten all of these answers, but Hunter was what signaled the big change, the big shift in college football, recruiting, talent acquisition, even the portal, all in one physical motion on December 15th, I guess 2021.
Yeah, his move to, well, first of all, his move to Jackson State was unheralded. That was just not expected. HBCU has never gotten a 5-star before, and let alone the number 1 recruit in the country. And it was not just one site in Sports Illustrated, it was like 24/7.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody had him as the number 1 recruit. He was highly touted as it gets. And I think one thing for sure, when you're following recruiting, if there's no ceremony and then all of a sudden there's a ceremony, just know something's up. I think that's a little tell sign. Obviously Jackson State wasn't in the cards, and it makes me laugh when John says that was the fastest he's ever typed. As writers, we usually have stuff sometimes pre-written for like commitments we know are going to happen. And obviously when something that dramatic happens, no one's expecting it. It's like
more people had the Georgia flip pre-written, right. I will say, in the industry. I didn't have either written. I thought, again, checking in with his people, this is the plan, signing first thing in the morning. You thought it would be over at 7:30 a.m. Eastern. And then, we got towards lunchtime and I'm like, I should probably start typing here. So
yeah,
it changed very quickly.
I think a lot of the people too in the industry kind of thought, because crossing over to college basketball, like Mikey Williams, a highly touted basketball player. I don't remember which maker. I think it's McCurr Maker, one of Thon Maker's cousins or brothers. He went to Howard at HBCU, and we were seeing in basketball where top recruits were starting to consider HBCUs, but we had never seen someone that highly ranked go to an HBCU. So that was huge. And then I think we saw on the Amazon Prime show, which has been out for a month or so now, Travis Hunter has a connection with Deion Sanders. I think he wants to learn from him. He feels that Deion Sanders could help him get to the NFL regardless of position, and he's making his own wave. And I think that's the cool part. His transfer portal entry was, and this is the timeline part that I called dibs on when I was talking to John, because here's the thing. He entered the portal, and everybody's like, he's going to Colorado, right? And then he started posting YouTube videos where he was like, the decision, and he had like other logos of colleges, and he was kind of playing with us. He was kind of flirting with the idea of going elsewhere. He was flirting with the idea of maybe going to Georgia, who was obviously very much in his recruitment from the jump. And it took him 3 days to commit because he entered the portal on December 18th and he committed the 21st. He wouldn't commit until I believe he was at 70,000 subscribers on YouTube, and he wanted to get to 100,000 was the mark I believe he set. And so he was waiting for all the subscribers to roll in. So we're all,
and they did.
Yeah, they did. It was the quote, "I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman." He got his followers, he got subscribers. I personally, I wasn't subscribing, but I was constantly checking. I'm like, okay, he's in the 90s.
Refreshing that thing.
Yeah, I was refreshing. I'm like, he's in the 90s. Now we're approaching. And then he got to 100,000 and he didn't decide right away. It wasn't like an immediate publish. It was, I think the next day he actually announced, or late that night. I don't remember how it went down, but it was not an orthodox like 100,000 hits and all of a sudden we got our answer. It was like 100,000 hits and now we're just tweeting and waiting for everything to happen. And he ended up following Deion to Colorado, and now he's, I would say, the face of the program in terms of players. Obviously, Deion's the face as the coach, but I would say talent-wise, he's the face. He's going to be playing receiver and corner probably. He had 19 total tackles this past season, 18 catches, and I think receiver-wise, I think he started to break out towards the end of the year. I think not that they wanted him to focus on one side more than the other. I just think he found his way to the field quicker on offense or on defense than he did on offense. And we saw him in the Cricket Bowl. He was making plays. He had the catch to send it to overtime.
Clutch
And
play,
so, yeah, so it worked out. It worked out. And so that is how Travis Hunter ended up at Colorado. And I'm sure we will see a lot of him this coming season. And we're going to hear a lot about him. We're going to write about him. We're going to be covering him a lot because he's probably out of, like John mentioned, it's rare that quarterbacks aren't the number one overall recruit. And when they're not, it's usually an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman. It's very rare that it's a skill guy. And so that's something that to keep an eye out for. And before we move on to what he means to Colorado, I need to give a shout out to Built Bar. We all look for delicious, healthy treats and that don't have the fat and all the calories that our typical healthy snacks have. If you're looking for a delicious treat, go to Built Bar. We all got through the holidays right now, and we all have goals to eat a little bit healthier, shed some of those pounds from the turkey and all the tamales that we ate in Thanksgiving, Christmas time. And if you're like me, you want to eat healthier, but you don't want to compromise the taste. And I've got just a thing for you. You have to try Built Bar. With Built, it is actually tasty, it's healthy, and seriously, they're so delicious that you won't think they're good for you. They're perfect for the New Year's resolution. It's never too late to get one going. What makes Built Bar so good is they're covered in 100% real chocolate, not the fake stuff, the real one. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter, brownie, and coconut almond. I'm not sure that how Built does it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. And what's even better is that they are healthy, only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar and a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't need to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering Built Bars at BuiltBar.com, but now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. If you're close to Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie batter and churro. You can thank me later. It's never too late to start a New Year's resolution, John, right? And Built Bar will help you get there. So we've talked about how Travis Hunter got to Colorado. Let's talk about what it means for Colorado to get Travis Hunter, because the rebuild was imminent. They went 1-11 last year. I'll start this one off just because I'm talking right now. They went 1-11 this past year. It wasn't pretty. They were ranked as in by multiple outlets the worst college football program in the country. They get Deion Sanders, and there's kind of like this expectation that it would take a little time to kind of get the talent. Travis Hunter came, and then I think, which Deion Sanders going to Colorado already generated interest from recruits and transfers, but I think Travis Hunter going there kind of solidified that this is a real thing. Like, this isn't just Deion Sanders is going to be here for a while and it's going to take a while. They signed a top 25 recruiting class. They have right now, according to 24/7, they have the number 1 class, thanks to a couple people moving elsewhere. Excuse me. And so they have all the talent. And I think without Travis Hunter, I don't think either of those classes look the same. Would you agree?
I would. He's a validator. You expected Shedeur Sanders to come. You expected some other JSU guys to maybe follow Deion, which is great, right? Obviously, they're all going to contribute, we think. And you expected some other portal guys to head that way, right? Other bubble guys in the 2 deep of other Power 5 schools. The talent was always going to upgrade. But if you wanted to hit this ceiling, you had to get Travis Hunter, because if it's about the Power 5 and resurrecting this program in the era of NIL with the potential 2-way superstar, you have to win that recruitment again, which is not easy. I don't know how much Travis really considered other schools, but I do know how desperately a lot of schools targeted Travis Hunter. The moment the Deion to Colorado stuff was reported, his camp was starting to get feelers from everybody in college football. So it's one thing as a teenager, even though Hunter is mature and always felt he was the number one player, all of those things. It's one thing to win in high school when he's a teenager, right? Money's, not legal at that point. We'll see. It's another thing to win the recruitment when money is already on the table and potentially more.
And he's valuable.
Deion, who always complains about not having any, potentially more is on the table at other places. And we know that, right? We know some of the places, right? It's not hard to dig into. It's one thing to win in high school when none of that matters. It's another thing to win at that level when all of it clearly matters. Travis Hunter is about his brand. Yes, he's going to work hard for Colorado, lay himself out there on offense and defense and maybe special teams, all of those things. But he also recognizes the individuality of this era, and he has embraced it. You mentioned the YouTube thing. Brilliant. I don't know if that was his idea or someone else's, but brilliantly executed. He got 30,000 more subscribers in a couple hours. So he is about that. And nobody would have blamed him for going back to Florida State, going to Georgia. Like a lot of folks thought one way or another he would end up at Georgia in the last few years. And it looks like, as things stand today, not going to be the case. So imagine turning down that school from your home state, at least from a high school perspective, that has produced countless elite players, won almost every single game over the last couple of years, and has been dominant on that side of the ball in particular, talking defense here. Imagine saying no to them twice. I can't imagine many truly elite players doing so. And everybody could recognize it. So the moment he indeed picked Colorado 3 days after entering the portal, this was the validator. This was kind of, to me, the turning point moment that said, oh, this overhaul is going to be swift and it's going to be talented. It's not going to be trading bubble guys for bubble guys. It's going to be, we're trading bubble guys for impact guys, and none are going to stand higher on that pattern than a Travis Hunter. So it was a validator for Colorado, for Deion, for the Power Five, for all of it, all in one move. Just like we saw him validating and trending or creating a trend to go to Jackson State, same kind of impact when he made that move to Colorado.
Yeah, it was a huge move. And before I make my next point, I want to thank all of you guys for making Locked On Buffs your first listen of the day. But if you need a second listen and you're into college basketball, I got the perfect second listen of the day for you. Check out our brand new podcast, Locked On College Basketball. Experts Isaac Shad and Andy Patton bring you everything you need to know on and off the court, plus hear from big name experts, coaches, and players throughout the basketball landscape. Locked On College Basketball, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, just like us over here at Locked On Buffs. March Madness is approaching. You got to be ready. They'll have everything you need to know. But back to Travis Hunter, I think, one, we knew the feelers were probably going out as soon as, even prior to
Maybe
Deion.
before,
Yeah, because Deion was in the mix for the USF job. As soon as they heard that Deion Sanders was in the mix for jobs, I'm sure there were somehow messages getting to Travis Hunter's people that, hey, we'd love to have you. Maybe consider us. I think the biggest sign that he was 10 toes down for Colorado was, I forget his name. It's slipping my mind, and you might know him. The 5-star Florida State commit was tweeting on or around National Signing Day how he would.
Williams, yep.
Yes, Hakeem Williams. Thank you. He was tweeting about how he would never flip. This isn't a Travis Hunter situation. And Travis Hunter responded to his tweet and said, dude, your coach would take me over you. He literally reached out to me. So I think that was proof right there that not only did he pick to follow Deion Sanders, he picked Colorado. Like, he wanted to be there. He didn't care about all the other offers because, every program that has some sort of NIL, and the NIL money is deep out there in Florida. Look at Miami, look at Florida, despite the Jaden Rashada saga.
Doing a great job.
Yeah, Florida State. And he was able to turn that down and head to Boulder with Deion Sanders. And I think that's huge for Colorado. I think that shows that the program's relevant again. I mean, we're talking about it, John. The program's relevant. It just solidifies their relevance. And I think it kind of is an assurance to people that this isn't just a phase. Like, right now, Colorado is a program to know in college football. And Travis Hunter is kind of, I think inadvertently, because I genuinely think he wants to be there, I think he's helping solidify whatever Colorado is going to be in the near future.
This is, it's a singular impact, which we see more, as you mentioned earlier, in basketball, right? One player can truly overhaul your whole roster and make you feel different about your ceiling. There's a few guys that have done that in football recruiting. Arch Manning is the most recent, I would say, to Texas this year. But before that, I mean, Travis Hunter, Caleb Williams, when these guys made their decisions, you felt almost a gravitational pull because of how they were or how they were perceived, which is very important to teenagers going through that decision-making process. You almost felt that. We had kids in Miami with all the offers in the world telling us, hey, I want to know about Texas because they just got Arch Manning. Texas don't recruit South Florida very well or very often, right? But they were creating that buzz. And now when I talk to kids in the class of 24 and 25, they're like, I got to get to Colorado. I got to get out there. I got to see what it's like. And that's just, again, not something that I've reported on even rarely in the last decade plus. So again, I think he's the face of it beyond Deion Sanders. You put that perfectly. And he's the singular most important addition, even though according to many, they thought it would be a simple addition. It was not. It was not a simple addition. This was never a I'll follow you wherever you want to go, Deion kind of deal. Very close, very much looks up to him, very much similar in how they are confident-wise and obviously ability-wise. But it was never a follow you no matter what kind of deal. I want to make that very clear. So Deion had to work at this recruitment as well. And I think it's easy to just say, oh, well, they're going to get everyone because Deion's such a personality. He's done the work. He's recruiting his tail off for real at a traditional pace. Yes, NIL, there's other factors, of course, but Deion is still doing the work as the head coach, which is not something we see across the country, even with the established, stable blue blood type programs.
Yeah, I think it just signals the new era for Colorado. And before we move on to our next our final segment, the show goes quick, but it's for your daily commute, your quick run. It's whatever. We're here for you. We're brief. We get straight to the point. Our sponsor, LinkedIn. LinkedIn. The LinkedIn sponsorship is currently not written out. So shout out to LinkedIn. I'll make sure to plug that one in there later. Let's dive into what his impact will be at Colorado. We know he plays both ways. We know he's you said it, best ball skills you've seen. That's high praise right there. Tell me his impact for Colorado immediately and in the future, because they have him for 2 years, essentially. There could be 3, but.
When we named him the number 1 player at SI, we did a feature on him. We interviewed him and all that stuff. This is the quote he told me. I feel like I'm the best guy in the class. I feel like I can do anything you need me to do. I can impact the team in multiple ways by playing offense and defense. I think I'll be the best to ever do it, the best to play 2 ways. This ambition with Travis Hunter has been there from his adolescence and teenage years. And I think his impact will be something in that direction. Obviously, we can't crown him the best to play both ways with respect to Deion and Charles Woodson and so many others, but he is aspiring to that and he is confident in that. So I think the two-way thing is very important. I know a lot of folks have been curious about his two-way ability in the Power 5. I think it'll be similar to what we saw at JSU. Again, Deion is the coach. We know he's certainly comfortable with it. And in a pinch, he's going to put his best players on the field. We know the Pac-12 is really good, particularly on offense, particularly at quarterback. So in theory, points will be scored, and you'll need to combat that to try to keep pace. And I think that's going to put Travis Hunter on the field at receiver just as much as we saw him, if not more, at the end of the season last year at Jackson State. So I think he's clearly a starting corner. Maybe he's a return man. And at worst, he moonlights as a receiver. But at the most, he might get, half the snaps at the position. It's really going to be a testament to his fitness, his discipline, his ability to really be a workhorse. Not something we talk about with corners and receivers, but he's going to have an old school running back, workhorse, workman-like mentality to play the amount of snaps that he wants to play. So we're going to find out a lot about his expectation versus reality, I think, right out of the gate for Colorado, because that TCU game is 8 days into the season, and that's really the one that a lot of folks have circled.
Right, and I think something that we all need to consider too, because I agree with you. I think his potential to be a two-way player is there, and I think he will play snaps both ways. But we have to consider Colorado's offensive coordinator is Sean Lewis. If you're not familiar with what he coined his offense as at Kent State, it was flash fast. And now it's going to be the fast buffs or fast flash, excuse me. Either way, all you need to know is they run a play every 30 seconds. And that's like 30 seconds of real time, not 30 seconds of 30 seconds off the clock. The refs snap the ball. It's every 30 seconds they're getting a play off. So I don't think they want Travis Hunter out there that much. I think they're going to have to figure out ways to use him in certain packages and certain scenarios, because you don't want him gassed on offense going out there and then trying to cover Dorian Singer at Arizona or at USC now, or cover Jacob Cowing at Arizona. Like, you don't want him gassed to be covering the Pac-12 wide receivers. And I think John would agree with me when I say this. The Pac-12 is home to the best quarterback play this next season. And you want Travis Hunter fresh on defense. And while I think he's a great receiver, I think he provides more upside for Colorado on the defensive side of the ball. They were
looking towards the next level, which is going to start to get important here too.
Right, because at some point they're going to have to make him not choose, but he's going to have to kind of lean towards one direction. And defensive back is his position that everybody projects him as the number one, or as his best talent. And I think we're going to see him kind of lean into that a little more. I do think he's going to get some snaps at receiver, but I don't think it's going to be as much as we would like to see, because obviously we all want to see Travis Hunter running wild and burning DBs and then going to make a pick six on the other side. I just think they're going to have to be a little cautious with him. A little minutes restriction or a snap count restriction on offense, because Sean Lewis likes to go fast, and I don't think they're going to make exceptions. Plus, Colorado's receiver room is, I think, sneakily good. We'll talk about this the more we move towards closer to the season, but they have a couple decent returners. They got Jimmy Horn. They have Seydou Traore, the tight end transfer. They have a lot of people that they're going to need to feed the ball to. And so
maybe a Travis Hunter package.
Yeah, I think they'll have a little Travis Hunter package where it's like the Wildcat equivalent for a quarterback, but we'll go receiver instead, where maybe they use him in the jet sweep. Maybe they just hit him on the bubble screen. I don't care. Just get the ball in open space and he will do the rest. John, it's been a great show as always. What you guys need to know about Travis Hunter, though, he's coming. He's going to dominate. I think let's give a little prediction, John. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Over under 3.5 interceptions.
I'll go over.
Okay.
His instincts and ball skills are some of the best we've ever seen. And again, the Pac-12, these quarterbacks are great. They're going to be throwing it. So just by volume's sake, I do think he's going to find his way to the football. And Travis has the skill set to move around too. I don't think he's just going to be on the island, but at the same time, I don't think any Pac-12 program is going to view Colorado and give him that respect early in the season. So I think he's going to have to create and command that respect. So it might take several interceptions very early in the season to get quarterbacks to back off and look the other way. So early in the season, I think he's going to be, very easy to see from an impact perspective on defense.
And on the other side, they're probably going to have 5-star cornerback Cormani McClain. So what a little duo they got there. And then over under touchdown catches, I'm going to set it at 2.5. I feel like based on the speed of the offense, I feel like that's a fair number.
Yeah, I think, again, you're going to have to score this year like crazy. I know Sean Lewis and company are going to do a good job with that offense, and I expect the offense to be pretty solid. I think there's a lot more consistent production coming to that side of the ball. The defense will be a little bit more makeshift and or reliant on youth. So I do think Hunter's going to work himself into that red zone. Again, he's 6 foot 6'1", so you wouldn't think about him as a pure red zone threat. But when you talk about the best ball skills I've ever seen, top 5 instincts, and a catch radius, he's very long for 6'1". You're maximizing that ability in the red zone even more so for Shedeur, who he obviously already has a rapport with on top of all that. So I do think he's going to find the end zone, if nothing else. I'd bet on the TDs before I'd bet on the yards or the receptions.
Okay, fair enough. There's a reason Travis Hunter's top 10 in NIL evaluations. He's a playmaker. He's a game changer. He does it all, and we will get to see him this upcoming season. Before we depart, sadly, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. You can make sure to find this everywhere you get your podcast: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever it may be. Make sure your second listen is Locked On College Basketball. For your second listen, check out our brand new podcast, Locked On College Basketball. Experts Isaac Shaw and Andy Patton bring you everything you need to know on and off the court. Plus, you hear from big name experts, coaches, and players throughout the basketball landscape. Locked On College Basketball, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. And in terms of Locked On Buffs, you could find us everywhere you get your podcasts, like we just said: YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, and do that. You can find me on Twitter at Kevin_Borba. And John, plug your Twitter real quick before we head out.
Yes, sir. John Garcia_JR. Come talk ball with us.
Come talk ball. You can find us on Athlon. We will be publishing articles about everything you need to know. We will catch you guys tomorrow.